Hi, and welcome to Passionate Purpose. And boy, the passion is going to be flowing today. The passion's going to be flowing. I am so excited to have these two amazing businessmen with me today. They are filled with wisdom and knowledge that they're going to be sharing with you today. And they're reconnecting here for the first time in so many years. And they get to do it on passionate purpose. It's such an honor. So, which one of you gentlemen would like to start us off and introduce yourself?
I'll go first because right before we came on, John said for me to go first, so I will. And it's my rightful place since I'm older. Anyway, my name is Ben Gay. I've been in selling I'm 80 now. I've been in selling and winning contests and things for 70 years. I won my first contest at age 10 in a citywide contest selling Krispy Kreme donuts, which was sort of a job and a joy. I ate several of the donuts as they were delivered and won a red bicycle, and I was hooked. From that moment forward, I thought, I think I'll be a salesperson. Did all the normal small things you do when you're a kid, mowing lawns. I had a lawn mowing service, employed 25 kids in the growing season, and a little system where we all made a good deal of money, and proceeded on through life. And on September 15th, 1965, a Wednesday, being broke and trying to put a wife through nursing school, I answered a little ad in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It said, if you know anything about marketing plans and want to make more money, dial this number. Well, I didn't know what a marketing plan was, but I needed to make more money. So I called and tried to bluff my way through the call and qualify the person who ran the ad. This is Ben Gay of Brown Gay Food Brokerage Company, neglecting to point out the Gay in the company name wasn't me, it was my father. And went on for 3 or 4 minutes qualifying this gentleman, Bill Dempsey, who John Carr knew well. And in the middle of my little spiel, Dempsey said to me, Mr. Gay, I'm not the man standing in a phone booth answering want ads. Where are you? And I told him, and it was a couple of blocks from his office on West Peachtree Street. He said, be standing in front of my desk in 10 minutes or don't ever dial this number again. He slammed down the phone. And Jimmy Rucker, my high school running buddy, happened to work for my father, pulled around the car right about then. I jumped in. I said, 1447 West Peachtree Street, quick. And he said, what are we doing? I said, we're going to be rich. My theory was anybody who'd pay for an ad and then hang up on people who called probably had something going on. Well, I walked into the office at noon, introduced myself to the receptionist. Hi, my name's Ben Gay. And from behind me came this laugh. And I'm used to Ben Gay jokes, so I turned around and there was this curly head guy sitting there. And I said, hi, my name's Ben Gay. What's yours? And he said, Zig Ziglar. Zig he'd answered the same ad.
Oh,
and I said, with a name like Zig Ziglar, you're laughing at Ben Gay. So Jimmy Rucker, Ben Gay, and Zig Ziglar went into a little meeting, signed up, invested our, I think, $91.41 and became Holiday Magic distributors, which is how I met John Carr. Couple of years, I guess, after that encounter, I won a year-long national sales contest. The mystery prize was, first prize was a mystery prize, second prize was a Rolls Royce, so on down, all the way down to steak knives. And when I won, I was flown to California and I said, what's the mystery prize? And William Penn Patrick said, you're president of Holiday Magic.
Oh.
Or will be. I had to be groomed a little bit, but
wow.
That was the mystery prize. And so Zig got the Rolls Royce. And one day talking on the phone on a especially tough day, sometimes being president of something isn't it all, it seems to be from a distance. You know, the Learjet was very uncomfortable. Sexy as it looked from a distance, it was very uncomfortable. And you had to best go to the bathroom before you got in it. So I would say to Zig, listen, bring the keys to the rolls out here to California, and I'll give you the keys to the front door of the company. He said, oh, no, you beat me fair and square. So Zig graciously accepted his defeat, which was secretly, I think he thought, of victory. And I was off and running. That led me to full-time professional speaking, sales training, writing the Closers series of books and so on. But it all started in a phone booth Wednesday, September 15th, 1965. And I got to meet wonderful people like John Carr and his beautiful wife, the late Donna Sue, along the way. So it's been an exciting ride and a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So much in just the first couple moments. John, we want to hear from you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience.
Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
I'm not on the screen, but I guess that's okay. I don't need to see myself anyway.
You are on the screen, actually.
Oh, really? Not on mine. Anyway, I owe a lot to Ben Gay, of course, because he was the president of the company that my dear Donna Sue and I were distributors in. So I give him and William Penpatrick credit for helping us become financially independent. And so fortunately, through Ben Gay's company, Donna Sue and I generated a tremendous amount of income. And since I grew up in a humble surrounding, I had great parents, but we were poor. I was very financially conscious of trying to become successful. And Ben talked about Earl Nightingale, of course. He lived in the building right next to me. That's how I met him. And I introduced him to Ben. But in the Strangest Secret record, it said, you can become what you think about. And he had a famous saying from Albert Schweitzer, you become what you think about. So here I'm a teenager just out of high school and attending the University of Nebraska. And I started thinking about becoming financially independent and successful. And then eventually I became a distributor in Holly Magic. By the time we were 27, we were financially independent. My goal then, because when we get into the principles of success, one of those principles is goal setting, having a vision, and a lot of other things as well. But I made up my mind, I wanted, because Earl Nightingale on the Strangest Secret record said he wanted to retire at the age of 35 with an income of $50,000 a year for the rest of his life. So I set my goal. I wanted to retire at also 35, but I wanted an income of $100,000 a year for the rest of my life. Well, Donna Sue and I became financially independent at the age of 27. I didn't retire till 34, and then I retired in San Rafael, California. And I felt a little guilty because I'm not the smartest guy on the block. And how could I become so successful? And so many other people that were my mentors and people around me were a lot smarter than me, and they weren't financially independent yet. So feeling guilty, I started the Charitable Giving Foundation. So in March of 1974, around my beautiful pool and our beautiful home in the Dominican Heights in San Rafael, California, I started the Charitable Giving Foundation. And my goal was, having been a professional fundraiser as well as a distributor in Holly Magic, I was able to generate funds for charitable causes. But I wanted to change the paradigm a little bit. Most fundraisers have to have people that have money. They can sit down and write out a check, attend a banquet, run a 5K, 10K, some type of an event. I wanted to change that and do something nobody else had ever done. So I went around in San Francisco and the Bay Area and asked different businesses if I could send you clients, customers, and patients for your business from all these different charities that I'm working with, would you give them a donation? Every single owner of the business said the same thing. It all depends on how much we have to give. I said, well, now look, we didn't have computers and cell phones back then. So people advertised on the radio, on TV, newspapers, even direct mail back in those days. Ben will remember that. Well, anyway, I said, just give what you normally spend to get your client or customer. This way, it doesn't cost you anything. I want to develop a win-win-win situation. The consumer wins because they can purchase the same products and services that they've always purchased and know a percentage of that is going to go to their favorite charity or their favorite cause. So it was a no-brainer. So I went back to the charities to see if they do that, and they said, we'll do it under one condition. We don't have to give them our mailing list. So anyway, it just exploded. So I went around and, make a long story short, I started conducting free seminars because people wanted to know, how can you become so financially independent, you and Donna Sue, and you're only 34 years old? So I thought, rather than giving investment advice, I'll get my securities license and I'll become a financial planner. So I started doing that. But anyway, it worked out to where Wikipedia did an investigation because international charity consultant came to one of my free seminars, and afterwards he came up and said, John, I don't believe you. I don't think you give all this money away. I don't think you can. How can you live if you don't have an income? So anyway, after 2 or 3 months, he came back and said, I want to be a part of your program. I said, I've been on your website, Norm. Well, I'm not going to pay you $100 an hour as a consultant. The foundation can't do that. He said, I don't think you understand. He said, I think, quote, you have the potential of revolutionizing the way products and services are marketed on our planet. I want to volunteer if you'll accept me. And he became one of my biggest supporters. He's the one that was going to get me on Shark Tank, which I never went on, which you know a little bit about possibly. So anyway, Donna Sue and I, and it's on Wikipedia's website today, they said we've generated over $1 billion for charitable causes. This was in July of 2009. This is in November of 2022. So I'm sure we've been several billions of dollars. And Donna Sue and I never took a dime out of our foundation, not even to reimburse the out-of-pocket expenses, because I traveled all over the country doing these free seminars. So that's a little bit about my background. I'm still doing it. I like what Wikipedia ended my little paragraph with on their website, and he's still doing it today. So my charitable giving foundation is still there. I still don't take any money from it, and everything I generate, I give it away to individuals, to causes, and to businesses. I hope I hadn't talked too long. Sorry about that.
Oh gosh, don't apologize. That's what I'm saying. The space today is to really have a conversation and to share the both of your life and your wisdom. I mean,
Can I say something else?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Thanks to you, Ben Gay. Did you ever think that you would turn a little farm boy from Northwest Missouri that had a very humble beginning into what I'm able to accomplish because of people like you, Ben? Did you ever think that would happen with me?
John, I always thought the world of you and admired you. So the answer would be yes, except I had a very small hand in that. I watched you do that. You and I have been in this business long enough to know you can demonstrate what should be done, but you can't make them do it.
Yes, but you gave me the opportunity.
Well, thank you. And so did Bill Dempsey for me and Holiday Magic and so on. But if you're not willing to do the work after you have the opportunity, Truman said, what a man does on some great occasion will be determined by what he already is. And what he already is will be determined by years of prior preparation. And if he's not prepared, when his great opportunity comes, it will only make him appear foolish. Your opportunity came and you ran with it like a scalded dog, as we say in the South. Kimberly, I don't know how much time you've spent around or listening to Zig Ziglar. I've been out of the South a while and I've lost most of my Southern accent. But listening to John talk just then, if I shut my eyes, you could have told me it was Zig and I would have believed it. They sound the same.
Well, he was one of my mentors, you know?
Yeah, I know.
And it's happening right here, in real time. And that's why, knowing you, Ben, and then knowing you, John, like, I just can really feel all of the wisdom. Like, I feel like a lot of the principles and a lot of the things, and we're going to get into John's keys to success. He's going to tell us a little bit about that. And Ben's going to share his wisdom on it with his experience. But I mean, these are things that entrepreneurs such as myself are talking about today. And that's why I really feel like you were there at the beginning, and there's something to be said for that. For me, I don't like to repeat things that really aren't, unique and genuine to me. unless they're wisdom. And you, both of you gentlemen, were part of it from the very beginning. So a lot of these principles and a lot of your life that you're sharing today is absolute gold. It's absolute gold because it was from the beginning. It's not a copycat, it's not a repeat. You were there from the get-go. So let's dive in. With that being said, let's dive in and learn about the keys to success. John, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, Think and Grow Rich lists 13 principles, 13 secrets to success. I boiled them down to 7 because when I did my seminars across the country, I didn't want them to go more than about 45 minutes, maybe at the most, because a lot of people and a lot of seniors, of course, I was in my 30s then, and a lot of the people attended were seniors, and I knew they couldn't sit for very long. But anyway, 7 is a favorite number of mine. 7 is the number of completion, the perfect number, and it's also given credit in the Bible as that. But anyway, I had 7 principles of success. I have them kind of in a certain order. Ben's going to maybe disagree a little, and I'm sure he's going to add some that I don't even have listed. But to me, the very first and most important principle for success is desire. If a person doesn't have enough desire, it won't propel them forward. They need a vision. I even call it a burning desire. The second principle I like to talk about was attitude. We can't change the weather, we can't change our traffic around us, but we can control our own personal attitude. So I talked about PMA, positive mental attitude. That was my second principle of success. Guess what my third one is? I bring in that dirty 4-letter word, and Ben referred to it earlier. Work, W-O-R-K, effort. And a lot of people have the opportunity, but they don't have that work ethic. But when I grew up, we were a poor family. I had to work. I started sweeping floors in a garage for 75 cents an hour when I was like 10 years old, for example. So it started off early.
Before you go on, I want to stop you there. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's something that we're lacking today, right? Is the work ethic, So you were sweeping floors, and, today somebody sweeps a floor and they're like, I'm too good for that. Like, I'm too good for that. I don't need to be sweeping floors. I need to be the chairman of the building. So can you talk a little bit about the importance, so those that are listening and tuning in can really hone in on the importance of those character building moments?
Well, I'm sure you've heard the saying, it doesn't matter as much where you start as where you end up that counts. And coming from a poor family, nothing was beneath what I had to do. But at a very young age, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to become a doctor. And my folks I knew couldn't support me, and they couldn't pay my tuition. So I just begged, and I got a job. And I'm sure this garage felt sorry for me, but they said, if you'll come in and clean the tools from the mechanics when they get done working on the car, and if you'll sweep the floor and clean the floors and so forth, we'll give you a job. They never probably thought I'd do it, but I went in and did it. But then when I became out of high school and college, I realized the garage wasn't open enough hours, and at 75 cents an hour, I couldn't earn enough money. So guess what I went into? Ben will appreciate this. The only thing where I could make enough money to work my way through college was straight commission selling. Yep. Then it was up to me. But they wouldn't pay me, a little teenager, enough money by the hour for me to even pay my tuition at the University of Nebraska. In fact, I even have my T-shirt on. It's the University of Nebraska T-shirt. Can you believe I still have this from 1956? I'm still wearing it. But anyway, that wasn't too good for me. And guess what? A 1-cent postcard came in the mail one day, and it said, come to a meeting where you can earn $100 a week and win scholarships and pay your way through college. And there's only a couple thousand students at the university, and I was one of them, obviously. They claimed they only sent out 100 postcards, Ben and Kimberly, and I was one of the lucky ones that got one. Now, God was my primary mentor. I want everybody to realize I didn't succeed because I was that successful. I succeeded because of Ben, people like Ben and other mentors, and I'm sure God had a plan. But anyway, I went on and became a successful salesman. Now, I don't lie, but during the interview, they said you had to have a car because you got to lug all these samples around that you show people. And I didn't lie. I didn't tell them I didn't have a car because I couldn't afford one. All I had was a bicycle. So when I first started, I was lugging my sample case on my bicycle all over Omaha, Nebraska. And would you believe this? I became the top salesman, like Ben did, in the entire United States out of thousands of other college kids, not because I was that good, but because I had to do it to pay my college tuition, to make my parents proud of me so I could go on to medical school and become a doctor. That's how it worked.
So good. So good.
You're getting emotional.
No. Oh my gosh. Like,
looking at you, Ben, motivates me to talk like I'm talking. It's so wonderful to be here with somebody that I've known for over half a century. And we're on your wonderful program here together. That people ask me what I get out of what I do if I don't make any money. I say that the self-satisfaction of just what I'm experiencing now. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Dr. Leonard.
well, actually, it's Kimberly Lechnick. I can't accept a doctor title because I don't have it, but I know that your friend, Dr. Leonard, is in our email exchange. But Ben, what are some of your thoughts that are coming up right now?
Well, first of all, I'll take the doctor thing, John. I'm a high school graduate, so I barely. So any doctorate I can get is accepted and gratefully. I'm not sure I can spell it, but I want to be one. I was doing a seminar in Las Vegas for Don Coate, and I'm on the faculty of his little university. And at the end of my presentation, I said, "Do you have any questions?" I noticed Don was going stretch. I don't know why. Maybe lunch wasn't ready. And so I said, "I'll be happy to take any questions you have." And this lady raised her hand and said, "Mr. Gay, what I would like to know, what are the three most important things you learned from being the last mentee of Dr. Napoleon Hill?" I hate questions like that. One, I learned 500 things from him. Two, Lord, help me remember 2 or 3 right now. Would be. But I'd much rather, what plane did you fly here on? That is a clear, crisp question and has an answer. But I looked up at the ceiling and really thought, Lord, don't fail me now. And I heard me say at the same time she heard me say, the first thing I learned from him was integrity in all things. I was raised by good parents, but we didn't sit down and have moral lectures. We just, you got hit in the head if you lied or stole or whatever. But Dr. Hill made a science of it. So he said, integrity in all things and in all manners. And I must have said something stupid like, you mean do the right thing when no one's watching? He said, no, do the right thing, especially when no one is watching. Quick little story on that. Bobby Jones, the great golfer, belonged to the country club I was raised at, East Lake in Atlanta. He was ahead in a tournament, gonna win, and hit a ball in the rough, went down to find it, first of all, and then fetch it. But this is before cameras and huge galleries and so on. And as best I recall the story, his caddy didn't even go with him or hadn't gotten there yet. When he found the ball, he had a club in his hand, and apparently he reached down to, is that my ball? And he touched the ball. That's called grounding your club. It's a 2-stroke penalty. Yeah. But nobody saw it. Jones came up on the green and so on. And then when he went to sign his card, it was 2 strokes more than the caddy saw. And he said, Mr. Jones, that's the wrong score. He said, no, it's the right score. I grounded my club. He had 2 or 3 more holes to go. He lost the tournament by a stroke, 2 of which were putting down what really happened. And that struck me. I asked him one time and bumped into him in the dining room at the club. if that was a true story. And he said, yes. And he said, I've thought about it many times. He was proud he did it right. On the other hand, nobody knew. So integrity in all things. And then probably Dr. Hill would tailor his lessons to what the person needed. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, this teacher taught me integrity to focus. I'm the shiny object crow. Right now, you and I are talking. I'm looking you dead in the eyes, both of you. And off to my left is a television that's always on 24 hours a day. If I walk in the office, I want to know what's going on in the world, and it's on the news. And I have good peripheral vision. If it said emergency bulletin or something, I would have to almost hold my head to keep from seeing what it was, because I had a tendency, be talking to somebody and somebody would walk by outside in the hall outside of my office. If the John spent a lot of time in that office, so he knows what I'm talking about. If somebody walked by, my eyes would dart up and so on. So I used to hear from Dr. Hill on a regular basis, focus, Ben, focus. And it didn't make any difference how unimportant it might have been. There's sometimes when looking up to see what's going on doesn't hurt you or doesn't make any difference. But Dr. Hill would say, train yourself. When you're doing something, do that something. Focus. And then the other one, the third one, was action. Integrity, focus, action. If I had to name three things I got from Dr. Hill, I'll tell you a quick action story. We were coming out with a line of men's cosmetics, which was really racy and daring in the late 60s. John, you'll remember the line. It was called High Tides, the men's line of cosmetics. I got that name, by the way. I'm not very creative. Anytime I had to name a cosmetic line, I hopped on one of our boats, which was tied up right behind the office, and cruised up and down the canal and into the yacht harbors. People get very creative when they're naming their boat. So High Tides came right off of the trend. The Principia was used later, and that came off of the big boat over in Sausalito. So High Tides came from there. Dr. Hill, he wasn't there full time, but Dr. Hill happened to be there, and we were talking about high tides and we're going to have the skin cream, we're going to have this and so on. A week or 2 weeks later, Dr. Hill comes back and we're having a meeting about high tides and so on. And he sat there quietly. And when the meeting ended, I said, all right, well, let's meet back here next Thursday. And they all walked out. When Dr. Hill was in town, when the door clicked, he never criticized me or really even questioned me in front of anybody else. But when the door clicked shut, the game was on. So they all left and click, and his head came up, and I thought, uh-oh. He said, Ben, what are you going to know about this cosmetic line you've been talking about for months? Next Thursday, you don't know now. And I said, well, I just want to make sure we get it right. He said, no, answer my question. What are you going to know next Thursday that you don't already know? And I said, well, I don't really know. He said, why don't you take action? So I buzzed Marty, my trusty executive assistant, sat right outside my door. I said, Marty, her name was Martha. Marty, regather the crowd. They all came back in. And Dr. Hill's sitting there quietly, rocking back and forth. And I said, what do you need to know? Asking them what he just asked me. What do you need to know that you don't know now that's preventing us from going forward? And I went around the table, Dorothy Von Berlding and our attorney, legal department. Everything is good. Marketing, everything is good. Advertising, everything is good. Stan Taylor, packaging design, everything's good. Had it done weeks ago. So what do you need? They all staring at me. And I said, okay, let's go. Everybody do your thing. The product is officially approved. And they all disappeared. And 30 days later, I had finished product sitting on my desk, and we made the announcement to the field. The difference in when we introduced it versus when we could have introduced it was action.
Mm.
So Dr. Hill taught me many, many things. They pop up from time to time, making lists, keeping a calendar, following a daily success system. It makes life not very exciting. People ask me, what are you doing today? And I think, following the list that Dr. Hill taught me 50 years ago. Yeah.
So it
Looking on
sounds
my, go ahead.
so it sounds like, you know, that's what they say when they're trying to tell us today about doing those things that are boring, taking the action, you know, like you said, you know, checking things off the list, making those calls, following up. But you're not doing it just one day, you're doing it every single day. You're doing these laborious tasks, but, you know, it's up to us to kind of bring some joy into it.
This is not a setup, but second on my list, my calendar tomorrow is toenails. Do my toenails. The reason is, besides the fact the whole system was based around Dr. Hill, the reason for that particular entry 50 years later is Dr. Hill was staying up at the house. He had his own bedroom there. And he walks out on the back deck overlooking San Francisco Bay, and there's the great Ben Gay in his bathrobe trimming his toenails. And I said, hey, Dr. Hill, good to see you. Embarrassed, you know, good to see you. And he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm trimming my toenails. I thought anybody could figure that out. He said, I think he said, why today or something. I said, they were snagging my socks. I got them too long. He says, oh, good. How long since the last time you trimmed them? 6 weeks, you know, as best I knew. He said, okay, go get your calendar. And I went and got my calendar. He said, write down, today is Saturday, go forward 4 weeks and write in toenails dash move M/U, move up 4 weeks. Now he said, if that's not right, we'll figure it out and you can adjust it later. But you're trimming your toenails today. You can do it again in 4 weeks. And I bet your nails will never snag on your socks again. And I said, fine, and laughed. A few days ago, as I was moving it up, it's already moved up 4 weeks from Saturday the 5th. It's toenails. That's from 50 years ago, Dr. Hill lesson. So he taught me integrity, focus, action, and trim your toenails every 4 weeks. Everything goes into a system. Then you don't have to think. And the other thing, another thing I didn't mention it that day, well, I have full-size legal pads, but the little memo pads, miniature legal pads, there's one here at this desk. There's another one at my real desk a few feet away. There's one in my car. There's one in the shipping department. There's one, and each one has a pen clipped to it. So you not only have something to write on, you have something to write with. There's one in the shipping department. There's one in my bathroom.
Wow.
And then occasionally in life, you get somewhere where there is no legal pad. You know, I don't carry one in my hand. For that, in my back pocket is a spiral memo pad. And so I am never, with a pen in my pocket, I am never farther away than my front pocket from something to write with and on. Because Dr. Hill, early in our relationship, he told me something. I said, that's a good idea. He said, write it down. I said, no, I'll remember it. And he said, no, you won't. Write it down. And he buzzed Marty and said, get Mr. Gay some memo pads and legal pads. And I haven't. So now between my memo pad and trim my toenails tomorrow, my my life is on track.
I love it. But you know, I want to, because this is a series that we're doing today. So I want to get back to John, and I want him to finish out with his, I know that I kind of interrupted him, but I want to get back to the remainder of his keys to success. So John, can you take it away?
I never dreamed, Ben and Kimberly, that we'd be talking about toenails on this program. Hey, Ben, just aside, you talked about Bobby Jones on that golf. Do you remember when Donna Sue and I won the trip to Greenbrier in West Virginia?
Yep.
And I forgot to mention to you in my short little brief history, I almost became a golf pro. Now, Sam Snead was the golf pro at the Greenbrier Country Club where we were, Ben.
Yep.
And of course, Donna was around the pool in her bathing suit, and all the guys were staying there. But I went out and played golf with Ben Gay. And the reason I met with Sam Snead, the reason I'm mentioning this, I almost became a golf pro. I don't know if I'd have won a lot of tournaments, but I sure would have made a good living. But Sam Snead only beat me by a few strokes. He couldn't believe it. Here I'm still in my 20s. But anyway, getting back to what you want me to get back to. Action. Ben mentioned action, and I include action in my effort, work, and scenario. So action is part of the principles. The fifth one is knowledge. I want to include knowledge as one of the principles for success, but I want to stress it's got to be the proper knowledge. There's a lot of people out there, like Ben and I share a lot, that have degrees and diplomas and education, but they never accomplish anything, not just financially. And I'm not just talking about being successful financially. I'm talking about being successful as a person. Have you ever listened to anybody that walks their talk any more than Ben Gay? Here he's still doing things that he learned from Napoleon Hill 50 years ago. Ben Gay walks his talk. And a lot of people talk, but they don't walk it. They don't act. They're lazy. So anyway, that's a very important part. And knowledge is key. Now, they claim that knowledge is power, but knowledge without action is not power. And the incorrect knowledge without action is also not powerful. So anyway, my fifth one is knowledge. The sixth one is persistence. Persistence, in my opinion, is the thing that got me going. I just didn't give up. And we probably, if we can remember this, we all remember how Winston Churchill was instrumental in World War II. He said in one of his speeches, never, 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 never give up. And he was talking to the Allied forces against Hitler. I never will forget that. He said never 4 different times. So persistence is also a very important thing. And last but not least, I learned this from my dear dad. He always used to say, and I was always anxious, you know, when you're a teenager and you want things yesterday, he said, John, Rome was not built in a day. So when you have all of these principles, desire, attitude, vision, goals, effort, work, knowledge, persistence, you need a little bit of patience. It takes a little bit of time to accomplish anything if it's worthwhile. So I hope that these 7 principles for success will help those that are listening. I hope it can inspire people and encourage people, because I hate to keep going back to this, but I want people listening to this to know if a little farm boy coming out of nowhere from a little farm northwest Missouri can do what he's been able to do because of people like Ben Gay, and Zig Ziglar was one of my mentors. Earl Nightingale, of course, is one of my mentors. W. Clement Stone, that hasn't been mentioned, was one of my mentors. Even Norman Vincent Peale was one of my mentors. And of course, the great Napoleon Hill was one of my mentors. But I got so many mentors. And on my website, they interviewed me one time and they wanted to know who I gave credit to for my success. And I didn't give myself any credit. And I listed all these other different people. And my IT and webmaster put up on my website, without me even approving it, standing on the shoulders of giants. And I had pictures, and he put pictures of these people on there and listed their names. And that's how I give credit, because I don't believe, and they used to introduce me as a self-made millionaire. And I wouldn't let him do that. I upset one of the announcers once. I said, I have to disagree with the announcer. It sounds like my mother wrote his introduction for me. But anyway, I said, there's not such a thing as a self-made millionaire. I don't think, there's no way I could have reached that pinnacle of success without the help of all kinds of other people. It certainly wasn't because of me alone. So anyway, I hope this principles of success can encourage people. Don't give up, hang in there, but have a worthwhile goal. Have a vision, have the desire. You got to have something that you want. I wanted to please my parents so badly. That's why I worked so hard. And then when I got married, my dear Donna Sue, who Ben got to meet, Miss Arkansas, Miss Universe, movies, television, she could have been famous, but she was more interested in taking care of me and helping me in the Charitable Giving Foundation. And when I added her to my desire, so I had my parents I worked for, my two little sisters I worked for, and my lovely, caring wife. Those were my inspiration. Those were the people that I wanted to help and satisfy. And that's what kept me from being a golf pro, because I like to play golf all the time, but I couldn't play golf every day, and also accomplish and become a doctor, which obviously I never became, but I became a doctor of business, I guess.
Two amazing, amazing businessmen that continue in their own way to give back. Thank you for joining us in the Keys to Success, and stay tuned for our next episode of Building Strategic Business Relationships. Thank you for joining us.